And here is Jeremy Indika, all the way from down the road in London. How are you, Jeremy?
I'm very well. I'm very well, thank you. Yes, down the road in London we are.
I have to say that because a lot of my guests are international, so they're all across the Pacific Ocean, and so it's quite nice to have a fellow Londoner on board today.
That's great. That's great.
Thank you so much for coming on the Victim to Victor show. I know that you've got a very tragic turned into triumph story to share with us, and I'm really interested to find out more. So tell us who Jeremy is.
Yeah, so hi everyone. I am trying my best at the moment to raise awareness for child sexual abuse. That's kind of like the number one mission. And I'm trying to do it in the most creative ways that I can possibly think of. So I'm using film, animation, photography to try to explain the different areas of the situation, the grooming process, possible preventative methods, how it feels to have gone through an experience like that. And I'm trying to do it in a interesting way. So I've made some short documentaries, I've made some animations, as I mentioned, and I am trying to get all eyes on the topic.
Okay.
Because, you know, I believe that this is everyone's concern. And I think that if you're within the survivor community, let's call it, you know, you're hearing about this all the time, but your average person in your average home is never coming across this because it's never on the TV, as an example. It's never on the news. And so they're never coming across it. So my idea is to create these interesting, engaging bits of content that hopefully get shared around online. So that's really like my goal and mission at the moment. So maybe I could just get into a bit of why I'm doing
absolutely that. Tell us your why.
Yeah, so I went through sexual abuse when I was 8 years old. It was a close family member, and he, who was around 25 years old at the time, had groomed me and sexually abused me for 2 years.
Wow.
So it was quite horrendous abuse. It was the kissing, the fondling, the touching, the oral, the whole shebang, let's call it. And it's so crazy to look back and think about me as that 8-year-old boy, so manipulated and so brainwashed into doing something that he thought was something that we did together because we were special friends.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's like such a powerful grooming process that he managed to grab me with, and he had me hook, line, and sinker. Honestly, now there were parts of the abuse where I felt uncomfortable. There were bits that I didn't like, but I didn't have the knowledge or the understanding to know that it was something that I need to tell somebody about.
Right.
So I just continued. Continued because along with the bad bits, there were good bits.
Okay.
It was comforting.
Okay.
It was a friendship. It was like we were buddies.
Okay.
But I was 8. I was 8 in 90. And I think something I should say more when I talk about this part of my story is it was 1993, right? The internet wasn't even around then. There was no... you weren't seeing sex on the TV. It wasn't like all over the place. It wasn't in music videos. It wasn't like you didn't really know that it existed. It definitely wasn't in the education system. That's for sure.
It was.
So I was a naive 8-year-old that got taken advantage of.
Yeah, I suppose mentally you thought it was okay, that this is part of life, right?
Yeah, this is part of life. Now, it's not like, you know, for somebody who's like new to this, hearing about these situations, it's not like one day we were playing football and then the next day we were naked in the bedroom.
No.
You know, it's a gradual, slow, progressive process.
Very. Yeah.
So scary. And I've made a lot of work around this, and I continue to make work around this, trying to explain the grooming process the best I can. So if anybody wants to see that type of work, it's all on my YouTube channel, which I'm sure will be in the description of this video, and you can go and see the kind of thing I'm really trying to, you know, one of my target audience is people who have never experienced it or never really even thought about it. And that's most people. That's a lot of people. And if my work can catch their attention, then that would be brilliant. Just so that once they've watched one of my videos, for as an example, they feel like, oh my God, I've never thought about it like that before.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh my God, maybe we should talk to our young son about this. Or maybe we'd even show that video to our 13-year-old daughter as an example.
Yeah. Sure.
So that's the kind of thing that I'm really going for.
Okay.
Now, once the abuse had finished when I was 10 years old, I returned back to the boy that I was before. Energetic, confident in class, doing really well at school, good at sport, lots of friends. Like, you would have never, ever guessed that this had happened to me, ever. And in fact, I even have spoken to some of the parents of my friends that knew me in those days and still know me now. And I'm like, now you know what happened.
Yeah.
When you look back, can you think of anything in my behavior when I was a boy that would have been something you would have recognized as not correct? And they all say, not a thing, Jeremy.
Wow.
Not a thing. You were one of the confident boys in the group, you know?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's like that stereotype of, if you've been abused as a child, you're going to be sitting in the corner of the classroom, not being able to speak to anyone. That needs to be rearranged, that stereotype.
Yeah.
Because that's not helping either.
No,
you know?
It's not.
It's
Absolutely.
not helping, because then parents are
just bypassing it, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just not helping. The stereotypes are not helping. And another stereotype was the guy that did this to me was 25 years old, and he was a nurse.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
So there's your another stereotype that we need to just speak more about and get abolished.
Healthcare professional. Yeah.
So my life continued as a young teenager, just like any other boy. I was mischievous, right? Yep. I was a little naughty here and there. I was boisterous, but nothing like out of the norm.
No.
And I grew into a young teenager. I went to college. I then got an apprenticeship in engineering, and I started to work with this company, and I just built this very successful career as a design engineer. So I was designing structure for aeroplanes, and then I moved on to supercars, and I was working all around the world and on these prestigious £1 million projects, and I was loving life.
Nice.
I was partying at the weekends. I had a great group of friends. I had this motivating career that was just so engaging. But then I turned 25.
Okay.
Everything started to change.
Okay.
I was feeling low. I was feeling tired. I was feeling like something weren't right. And I just wasn't sure what it was. But these bouts of sadness just kept getting deeper and kept lasting longer. And I thought, oh no, it's the memories.
Okay.
They're back. Now, they'd never completely gone away, right? Because something will come up on the news. The Jimmy Savile case was a massive thing. It would remind me about what happened. Somebody would say something in conversation and it would remind me of what happened. Something would be on a film that would remind me of what happened. But, you know, I was 18 years old, 21 years old. I didn't care about that. It would send me off balance just for a couple of moments, but I'd get over it within a minute. But this time in my mid-20s, this was different. So I thought to myself, you know what I should do is, the best way for me to deal with this, when I'd admitted to myself, it's those memories, was to just keep pushing them away. And you know, over time they would disappear because, you know, in the 15 years since the abuse was finished, it hasn't been a problem. So why would it be a problem now? Is what I was saying to my 25-year-old self. So I tried it. 2 years passed and I'm still trying.
Right.
Yeah. The memories, the bouts of sadness have got uncontrollable. Now, I was still engineering. I was still putting on a brave face, but behind closed curtains, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. So I was like, well, what am I going to do now? What the hell am I going to do with this now? And I thought I should tell somebody about what happened.
Okay. So
I kept, when I was with friends in the pub, I kept going to say it.
Right.
But then I'd just retract and be like, not now, and now it's not correct. Then I'd gear myself up to do it again, and then I'd be like, no, not now. Now's not correct. But then I was at a party. I was sitting with a friend who was actually friends with me at the time that it happened, and I told him, and it felt incredible. It was like this massive weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I even said to him the next morning, I said to him, mate, what we talked about last night, that just for me to tell you, it's just given me this incredible, it just made me feel really confident.
Good. Yeah. A release.
Yeah. Release. Absolutely. It's a great word for it. I think it's a release and strengthen yourself that you actually did it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
So I then continued my life, and every time the sadness would come back, I'd tell another person.
Right.
And I spent like 2 or 3 years telling people, one person at a time. Sometimes it was 6 months in between, sometimes 3 months in between. Now I told all my immediate friends, then I started telling their partners, then I started telling their parents.
Okay.
So I got to 30 years old and I told like 30 people.
Right.
And whereas the first time I spoke about it, I was, my body language would have been like, all crunched up. And by the 30th person, I was like, look, I'd be like, oh, look, you remember when I was this old? And I'd be telling it like a real story.
Yeah.
And I kind of say that like I was holding up my story high in victory.
Good.
I was holding up high in victory. Okay. That's how I felt about it.
Wow. And so all of this was without any therapy?
Yes, all of this was without any therapy.
Okay, that's brave.
And I feel like actually the speaking out about it to someone was the best session of therapy that I could ever receive as a person.
That's amazing, yeah.
I got lucky though, because I got the perfect response.
Right. Which was
sadness, anger, and support.
Okay. Right.
Because they're the three things that I think me knowing myself the best that I can, they're the three things that I want.
Right. Okay. So you wanted,
because I want people to feel sad that it happened.
Yeah.
I want people to feel angry that it happened, and I want their support. Done.
Right. Okay.
So I was still engineering at this point.
Yeah.
Right. Now I told 30 people, and I was like, I wonder what the hell is going on out there. Right. Okay. How is everyone else getting on? So I started spending my evening Googling keyword searches.
Okay.
Right. So what does trauma do to the brain? What is paedophilia? Why are these people doing these things? What happens to a child when this happens? What is the grooming process? All of these things. Yeah. Now, I came across chat rooms, which I wasn't expecting. Thousands of people explaining how they're struggling with their memories.
Wow. Okay.
Thousands of people. I could not believe it.
So it's big.
It's just crazy. Yeah. Like it really highlighted to me the scale of the problem. So I started reading the chat rooms, and I come across one message that struck me to my knees. It was from an 80-year-old woman. And she said that she has never told anybody about the abuse. She's never spoken about it out loud, the abuse that she went through as a child. And she feels like it's held her back in so many areas of her life. And she actually listed them all. Wow. And she said, and now she feels like her time is up. It's too late for her to start speaking about it. And she'll just go to the grave with it.
That's quite sad.
Oh my goodness. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Wow.
I tell you, I must have read it 10 times, one after the other. Like, I just couldn't believe it.
So what kind of areas had it impacted? Like, obviously relationships.
Relationships, how she brought up her children,
Right.
her relationship with her daughter, her
Yeah.
relationship with her parents, trust issues,
Mm,
all of those.
okay.
She listed them all. And that
That's
was her
quite
life.
sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, you know what? After I'd done all that research, I was like, I need to try and do something about this, because I'm reading these chat rooms of people who have never spoken about it or struggling with it, and I felt at that time like I had an opportunity, or I had been given in inverted commas a gift, because I felt so confident with the story now.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, what can I do though? What can I do? So just so coincidentally, I had been to an open mic night in London like the week before.
Okay.
Now, for anybody that's never been to open mic night, it is an event that you can go to and sign up on the door, and you get 5 minutes on stage.
Okay.
So you can perform music, you can sing, you can perform poetry, you can tell a story. Yeah. So I went as a storyteller. And I started speaking my story on the stages in London. Now, when I started doing this, I started getting so into it. I was like, this is the route for me. Now, there's a whole story within the open mic story within my story, because, you know, the first night of me speaking on stage for the first time was crazy, but I just got this incredible feeling afterwards. Yeah. I started speaking like 4 or 5 nights a week.
Okay.
And I decided my engineering project had finished at that point. Right. And I decided that I would stop engineering, collect all my savings, give my flat back, put everything that I needed into my car, and just hit the road. Okay. And just start speaking every night, which is what I did. I thought we could really try to get some kind of momentum going here. I started recording my performances and putting them on my social media platforms. That started getting traction. Like, I had some incredible nights where I had like standing ovations at the end of the night, but I had some terrible nights where people were telling me to get off the stage.
Why? That's a bit harsh. Wow.
I had 2 nights in particular, one that cut my microphone halfway through my performance because they said it was too much.
Oh,
And then the second one, some guy stood up in the audience and went, "Don't you know this is nighttime entertainment? And you come here talking about kids getting touched? Get off the stage."
Oh, they're so rude, aren't they, people?
Like, it's just so crazy. Yeah. But you know, I'm not defending those situations, but I was actually in the wrong venue. You know, I was in pubs in London. I was in bars in London, but I had to take my opportunity.
Hey, right? Ballsy, very ballsy.
So when I was doing this, I wasn't just telling my story every night, right? I was talking about the things that I'd researched on my Google searches, you know, pedophilia, grooming process, prevention methods. So I was trying to attack it from all angles.
Yeah.
But all it made me think about was, where is the guy that did this to me now?
Yeah.
Where's he at?
Where was he?
What's he doing?
Yeah.
Is he still doing this?
Okay.
So I thought I need to try to find out. Okay. So I search for him online. I can't find him, but I find his wife. I message his wife. She blocks me. She actually sends me a rubbish message back and blocks me.
What did you say to her?
I said to her, I made up a lie first.
Okay.
And said, I'm doing he was involved. I know him from my childhood. I've got a survey for the NHS that I know, and I know he's a nurse, so maybe you could just get him to fill it out for me. She wrote back saying, I can't actually say the details of the message because I'm not allowed to, but she gave me a rubbish message back.
Okay.
So I messaged her with the truth. She blocked me.
Oh, goodness. So
I went to the police. Reported the crime, gave my statement, a 3-hour statement. Wow. And the investigation lasted 9 months and then was closed due to insufficient evidence. And everybody's angry about that. I mean, it's not, I don't want people to be angry about that. Because it was 1993. There's no record of anything.
Not at all. There's no evidence.
There's no evidence.
Yeah, exactly.
And nobody wants a system where we can prosecute just because I said something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we have to accept that. We accept that.
Yeah.
But I was so angry that he denied it. I took this fire to the open mic scene. Like, I didn't care what venue it was. I didn't care what audience it was. I was speaking and I had a fire in my voice now. Okay. I started, and then I started getting recognized on the open mic scene. Okay. People were like, I've seen you a few times. Look, I'm a videographer. I've got a camera. I want to turn that piece into a short film.
Oh, okay. Oh my God,
let's start doing this. I started upgrading my YouTube channel. I started making it a bit more like a channel. It started to grow. I got in touch with a graphic designer. We put a logo together called Something to Say, because I've got something to say. That's where this has all come from. We started getting a branding together. We got branding colors and a look to my Instagram. Brilliant. We started moving forward. Now, in between all of this, I always like to say that, I wasn't earning the income. Yeah. Right. So I was still working out of my car. I was staying in people's spare rooms because accommodation was something that if I was to pay for, my savings would go out real quick. Right. Yeah. So I was watching my money, eating in cheap places, cooking where I can. And it was just like a real mission.
Right. Okay.
But I was still so angry that he had denied it. I thought to myself, well, he should face me.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah? He should face me, because I've got things that I need to say to him and he should hear me out. So I started looking at to try to find out where he lives. And I did one thing, did another thing. No, had no luck. And then eventually I managed to get his address.
Right.
And I drove to the house and I knocked on the door and he answered. And he recognized me straight away. Went to slam the door shut, but I managed to hold it open, and I got about 3 or 4 minutes to say everything that I wanted to say to him.
Wow.
I didn't hold back on any of the terminology. I called him out on every single thing. It was the most powerful moment of my life.
So brave.
The most powerful moment of my life.
That is. Yeah.
Now, in the background, his wife is calling the police. It sounds like absolute mayhem. It sounds like I've got them at gunpoint, right? He's screaming, trying to drown out my voice. She's screaming. And I'm just like, stop shouting, right? Stop shouting. Stop pushing the door, right? Yeah. Just keep it open because you're going to hear me out.
The truth hurts, man.
Yep, absolutely. Now, it wasn't very long until I heard the sirens. And round the corner come 3 police cars, and it seemed like 10 officers jump out and come for me.
Oh, wow. So you're the culprit.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they're like, what are you doing here? And I just pointed at him. He was at the door. And I said, that's the man that was sexually abusing me when I was a child. And I've come to speak to him about it.
Absolutely.
And it changed everything.
Did it?
It changed. Their body language changed. The way they were talking to me changed. Because, I mean, nobody's making that up as a alibi, right?
People don't do this.
No. Yeah. So it changed everything. Now, they did arrest me that night because my abuser said that he wanted to press charges against me.
Yeah, but you didn't hurt him, did you?
No.
Okay.
But he had enough. The system allowed him, because I had one foot in his house while I was keeping the door open, and I was at his premises.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I get put in the back of the police car and I spend the night in a cell.
Right.
I get interviewed and I go to court 3 times. They're charging me for harassment for the amount of times I've tried to contact him and he's told me to go away.
Right.
Stalking for finding out where they live, and assault for pushing the door into his chest when he went to slam it.
Okay.
I went to court 3 times. I pleaded not guilty. I got found guilty for the assault, £1,000 fine, and a restriction order.
Oh boy.
So that was the result of that situation.
I'm just saying, you just say this like it doesn't really bother you now. Are you over it?
if you said to me that would have been the result, if you told me prior to knocking on the door that would have been the result, I'd be like, yeah, I'll take that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'll take that to get my time in front of him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I actually, when I was sitting in the cell that night, I remember thinking to myself, number one, I cannot believe that all just happened.
Wow.
And number two, that couldn't have gone any better. Because yes, I'm in a cell, right? And I've been arrested and I'm going to get in trouble. But I got my time in front of him, and I got enough time that at the end of like 3 or 4 minutes, I was like, right, I've said everything I want to say. Have you got anything to say to me? So it was that kind of like, I'd said all my thing. I wasn't rushed.
What did he say?
He was just continued shouting, just frantically shouting the whole time.
Oh my goodness.
Frantically shouting.
Oh goodness. Okay. Wow.
So that all finished, and I now have a restriction order, so I cannot contact him ever again or be in that area of the country that he lives in. And I would never break that rule, because if I do, that's my bail conditions. I'm straight into prison, and that would be silly.
Yeah,
right.
That would
be silly. So that's my work done. With that man, that's my work done. Don't get me wrong. I'm very, very sad that nothing could be done. And the reason why I'm sad is because he's free out there with no restrictions on his online activity, his whereabouts, or what job he does.
So true. So true. Yeah.
So that's what I'm sad about, and will forever be sad about. But I just got to swallow that and deal with it. So now, what this is all about now is I've got this something to say movement going. I've got Jeremy Indika, which is my page. I'm in talks. This is what I've got up going at the moment. I've got my YouTube channel where I'm uploading short films every month or so, and other discussions. There's various bits of content on there discussing different angles on the topic. Some are even a bit controversial, but I feel like they're conversations we need to have. Yeah. I've got my social media platforms, the usual platforms, and you can see there how I'm using those. Yeah. I'm in talks with a theatre company in North London to create a theatre production that explains how the life of a survivor unfolds. We have plans to put it together, showcase it for 10 nights, and refine it, and then push it to the bigger companies. Brilliant. Okay. I'm now working with a company called Focus Frame Productions in London, trying to put a 90-minute feature film together. Okay. And we just started creating that. Again, it's going to always be about how the life of a survivor unfolds in a fiction kind of story. Okay. I've also got a clothing label being launched in the new year, and it's the Something to Say clothing label. Okay. And Something to Say represents boldness, strength, and courage. Yeah. And the clothing is now being designed. Now, one of the big drivers for that merchandise is financial, to generate income. Yeah. Because I am on my last bits of money now. I'm on my last 10% of savings that I collected during my engineering career. Yeah. And when the savings are gone, then I must return back to work, which means this project can run in the background, but very, very, very slowly. Okay. So that's what the merchandise, one of the big drivers for the merchandise is. Yeah. Now, also, I've kicked off a new movement called Something to Say. I've created new Instagram pages and the rest of the social media platforms, and I'm inviting people to come and feature. So you get 1,000 characters, and what I'm saying is, excuse me, the question is, do you have something to say that makes you feel strong when you say it? Absolutely. So I've got some people on there sharing their stories of experiences of abuse, but also, which I'm very, very pleased about, I've started to get people from professional fields that are in childcare or dealing with this subject or work within this subject. So I've had a child psychologist on there. I've had a play therapist on there. I've had a self-defense coach on there. I've had a counselor on there, just to give their opinions. What do they see day to day? What's their view on it? Because, you know, some of these people have been in work in their field for 20 years. Yeah. So they've got great information. Yeah, absolutely. They really have. Wow, you've got a lot going on, Jeremy. So it's full on. It's full on. And there's a certain like kind of pressure to this, because I calculated my money quite recently, and at the end of February, it's going to run out.
Yeah.
All right. So that gives me 3.5 months now to continue growing it as much as we can. You can monetize YouTube, but you need a lot of views. But it's a way of making generating funds. The merchandise will help. The podcast that I'm trying to create now will also help. And also I have a donation page on my website where, you know, people are being very generous in the odd £10 or odd £20 here and there.
Yeah.
Because if I can get this thing running itself financially, you know, if I can generate enough funds to pay all the people, the graphic designer, the film crew, the person, the video editor, the merchandise designer, if I can create enough funds to pay those people, then this whole thing runs itself.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a kind of self-running business model. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. And it's desperately important. You know, some people say to me, Jeremy, if you do have to go back to engineering, because it gets me down when I think that this may not work, right? And they say, Jeremy, come on, if you have to go back to engineering, it's okay. You give this a good shot, right? And you have helped many people. And for me, that's not an explanation that I'm accepting, because every day I get at least one message. Right. It will either be from another man saying that they got strength and courage through my work.
Yeah.
It may be from somebody in the profession saying that my work has shown them another angle to think about when they provide therapy or counseling. And thirdly, I get a number of messages from parents saying, through seeing your work, I've now opened the conversation with my children about simple things like private areas. That's something that I make a lot of content about. Education. Yeah,
so important.
It's just so important. And I had one that I would say the most powerful message, one of the most powerful messages I've ever received. A lady messaged me and she said, I've been watching your work for a little while now, and you encouraged me to open the conversation about private areas with my children. She had a son and a daughter. She said, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, my daughter then explained to me that her cousin has been touching her in the private area.
Wow.
And she said, if I had never come across your work and seen what you were saying, then I would have never had the conversation with my daughter, meaning I would have never found out about this.
Yeah.
Daughter was 10 years old, cousin was 10 years old.
Oh boy. That is,
so now they're both, she was like, I put them both into therapy and all of the options that are available from this moment on. And she said, thank you from me and my daughter. And I thought, well, that is.
Yeah, I know. I was going to ask, what do you think the biggest challenge is at the moment in our society?
Accepting that this problem is everywhere and accepting that it's happening.
Okay. Acceptance. Yeah.
Acceptance. Yeah. Understanding. I think we forget a child's nature and how easy it is to groom them.
Yeah.
I think we forget that. I think we forget completely what it's like to be a child. You know, how many parents are like, that would never happen to my child. How many parents are like, my child would tell me. How many parents are like, that would never happen in my home.
Yeah, goodness.
How many parents, you know?
Yeah.
I made a video last year at Christmas, and I said, and the summary of it was this. Story of Father Christmas. We tell a child that story year on year. Every year we tell them it. And it's a story that's so far from reality that the child's so engrossed in that story. It's been implemented in them. And there's a promise of presents at the end. So they're glued to it.
Yeah.
And in the month of December, you can control your child using that story.
Okay.
If you're not behaving, then Santa won't come. If you're not doing this, then Santa won't come. And so you can see how a child's mind is completely manipulated and brainwashed. Now, I just want to throw in there, I've got nothing against the story of Father Christmas. I think it's magical. I think it's fantastic. But if we use it as an example, just to show how malleable a child's mind is, and we see it every single year, right? So if I can communicate that to parents and they will understand that that's relatable, then they can see how somebody can come in and grab their child in that kind of way.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
Using story, using techniques, using presents. And a scary thing about it now is the presents don't have to be physical. They could be a £20 gift card, £20 transaction for the game they're playing.
Yeah.
Okay. On their iPad, right?
Yeah.
So it could go, it's invisible presence these days, right?
It is, yeah.
So if I can just try to communicate that to parents and hopefully, let's say just at least 5 of the people that watch that video has been watched, I don't know, 20,000, 30,000 times. Even if 5 parents have watched that video and been like, yeah, I completely get that.
Yeah.
What do we need to do? What do we need to do now?
Exactly. Right? Yeah.
What
do they do? Yeah.
Right. What you need to do is reduce how naive your child is to these things.
Okay.
Right. Now, naive is almost a hurtful, negative word, but without education, you are naive.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
If you're not educated on something or informed on something, you are naive to that thing. It doesn't mean you're a bad person.
No.
And it doesn't mean who we're talking about are bad people, right? If you're not educated or informed on something, you're naive to it. And the last thing you want is your child naive to inappropriate touch.
Yes. Yeah.
Because if they do receive inappropriate touch or get asked to give someone else an inappropriate touch and the correct story and the correct grooming and the correct setup is correct, they're doing it.
Okay. I don't know what your perception is of Michael Jackson, but I had a guest on who is a Men Too advocate, and we were talking about Michael Jackson. And since then, I kind of got a bit obsessed. I was just watching a lot of the videos, and wow, Lord, it was difficult for me to accept that he'd be doing that. But then, come on, you just don't have kids sleeping in your bed.
Yeah. So do you think it's a really interesting topic? Do you think that today that would, you see like national TV clips where he's like walking from limousine to limousine holding a young boy's hand, and he's got boys on his lap at like the Oscars.
Oh yeah. Weird. So weird.
But it wouldn't fly in today's society, I don't think.
It so would not, no. No.
And that's a reason for us to be a little optimistic, surely. And just to give us some faith that we are actually moving in the right direction.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so. I think so.
That's a good example.
Yeah. And I believe that now, we're dealing with a lot of trauma, a lot of PTSD, and it's about being that voice, so people can come and speak up and just communicate what may have happened to them,
Yes. And quite recently, 2 professional football players, one, both international stars, I believe. I know one plays for England, that's for sure. Mike Rashford, I think that's his name, and Patrice Evra have both come out and spoken out about their child sexual abuse. And that's just huge for massive athletes, sports stars to be coming out like that. I just think it would just ignite so much change,
Exactly. The fact that they've shown vulnerability, and I know that in this day and age now, a lot of people are very they see vulnerability as strength, so they won't be that open to admitting what happened to them. But I believe as well that COVID lockdown probably hasn't really helped cases, and I feel that as well as COVID cases, we're now going to be exposed to a lot more sexual abuse cases.
NSPCC recorded the most amount of calls they've ever had.
Oh, goodness.
During the first lockdown. It's a highest recorded since NSPCC have been around.
Oh, that's awful.
That's crazy. I
just can't
believe it. If you're a child and school is your outlet, school is your escape.
Yeah.
And then you're not going for however many months first lockdown was here in the UK.
Yeah.
I mean, and you've got parents who are
angry,
rightly so frustrated and already angry about what's going on. Maybe their job has been cut. You've just created this hurricane within the home.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the vulnerable who are the ones who become the victims.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's
Absolutely.
sad. It's sad. Do you think? Do you think as well it's a cultural issue? Because I talk a lot about what's going on in India and just how much of it actually is still brushed under the carpet.
I would be guessing here, but I'm going to say countries like India. My family heritage is Sri Lanka. I'm going to say that to speak out about something like this and be listened to and taken seriously, I think you've got a better chance of doing that here in the UK.
Yeah.
I would say that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But culturally, let's take it culturally within the country that we're in, or I think it's in every culture, and I also think it's in every social status. Is that right? It doesn't matter what your wealth is. It's equally, I think it's equally prominent in whatever wealth.
Socioeconomic status. Sure.
That's the right word.
Okay. No, absolutely. I just wanted to ask as well, because I was contacted on Twitter today asking if I've got any talks out there on anxiety and depression for males, and I just wanted to know what kind of resources you'd recommend for that.
I got asked this question yesterday as well, and the way I answered it was, I don't have a reading list or a go-to list for people to go to.
No.
And I've been toying with the idea of putting one together. And then I thought, well, no, I'm not going to do that, because my suggestion to somebody about a charity or a website or a public speaker that talks about these things, I may be able to relate to that person or organization, but someone else may not find that useful. And also I think we got... I like to think everybody knows how to use the internet now, and most people have access to it. I think a few Google searches and just experimenting with what works for you.
Sure.
If you want to learn more about anxiety and depression and the ways to manage it for a progressing life, then you can type one sentence into YouTube, and on your homepage will be 15 different people talking about it from different angles. And it's about investigating which one works for you. And then when you find the person that works for you, you can click on their homepage, and then you've got their library of work.
Excellent. Okay.
So that would be my advice, actually.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, thank you for that. And I also wanted to ask kind of what's next for Jeremy?
Yeah. So it's just all about now a big push till the end of February. So you can see all my work on my website. I launched the website a couple of months ago. I'm so pleased with it, and so it just gives me such confidence with just to have a website up that looks good. It's got the branding on there, it's got all the content, it's got how we got here, and it's got the vision for the future. There's massive plans, but there's just this pressure now of really just trying to push it forward. So if you're listening and you want to come and join this community that I'm creating, please just check out my work. It's fantastic.
Brilliant. And I'll be adding the links on this description on the podcast, as well as the YouTube channel. And we are nearing the end now. It's been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your survival story and story of bravery. I mean, I think you're the first person who's actually come on my show who's actually faced the abuser to such a degree, as in face to face.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you. Yeah.
Very.
I hope that action. I would never advise anybody to do that. Never. No. But I hope that action shows that these people that are doing these things, especially if it was done to you, they're just other men and women. They're not scary. They're not monsters. They're not threatening. That guy is no threat to me now.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a family.
He's got a family, and also I'm quite a bit bigger than him, and I'm not scared of him. Right? So he is no threat to me. He is no threat to me. I just hope that action just shows that there's nothing to be afraid of once you're an adult and you're looking back at your childhood memories.
Absolutely. What's the one message that you'd like to give to my listeners today?
Take care of yourself and keep progressing where you can. Look after yourself.
That's beautiful. Wow. Thank you so much again. And thank you so much, listeners and watchers of YouTube, for listening to this show. It's been an absolute honor to have Jeremy Indika on my show, who has shared his story of survival. And please do go onto his YouTube page. He's got some amazing videos on there. They're just really professionally done. I'm so impressed with them. And I know you all will be too. And you'll be learning so much just about, different topics such as porn and, educating your children about their private parts, which again can be quite a uncomfortable topic for any of us to educate our kids. I mean, I have a 3-year-old, so I can't wait for that topic to come up between us. And Jeremy, we look forward to seeing what's next. I cannot wait to see your theatre production and movie. Oh my goodness, honestly, the future is bright, and I wish you all the success with that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Listeners, I shall see you on the next show. Up until then, please do stay safe and stay loved, and we love you. Namaste.